Okay, let's look at how we might plan a market research project. Supposing you need to get started next Monday, what do you start by doing? The most common answer I'm given to that is planning. I'm assuming that's a good answer, but I'm assuming that by the time you are ready to get started, the planning has been done. So typically, you might write a market research brief. You might send that brief out to an agency. The agency will send you back a proposal or a plan of action of how to execute that research. You will commission the research, and then the research can get started. Now, even if you do the market research project in-house, the process would be the same. Someone will specify their needs. It might be you or it might be your colleague. That is the research brief. Someone will decide who to do it. Very likely you, as the market research manager, you will decide how that research should be done. You'll put the planning in, you'll plan how much time will go in, you'll plan what method you will use, and then the research will be ready to begin. So at that stage, next Monday, you come into the office and you decide, I'm going to get started. What's the first thing you do? I would suggest the first thing you need to do is to talk to whoever needs the research, to talk to whoever has commissioned the research project. As an agency, our first step is to have a start-up meeting or a briefing meeting. That means getting together with the client and being quite clear on what exactly they need to know. How are they going to use this information? What information can they share with us already? What way do they want this information delivered? Now, much of this will have been in the brief and in the proposal, but by the time the project is ready to get started, things often move on. So the first step should be to be very clear on what the client needs to know and what they already do know. Very often a briefing meeting might take the form of a tour of the factory or a meeting of the sales team or a briefing regarding their planned product launch. So after that startup meeting, then we can get on with the next step. The next step is to see what we can find already addressing those business issues. Look online for information, look in libraries, look in published sources. Secondary research is information that already exists. Before we go out talking to people, let's look and see what we can already find. If we find some information, it may help us set the context for the research. It may help us choose who to talk to. It may help us decide what are the right questions to ask. It will help us to decide how big is the market in context. So sometimes that desk research can really help us set the scene. I would suggest that you probably spend no more than a couple of days, 1 or 2 days, doing that desk research. Not Googling, but going about it in a systematic manner that we'll talk about in a later session. Having done our homework, we then can come to a decision on who should we be talking to. Sometimes the client will decide that these are the customers I want you to talk to. These are the prospects we need to understand. Sometimes you as the researcher will determine who will I go out and contact, selecting the sample. Then decide on what questions to ask. It may take a day or 2 days to design an effective questionnaire. It's not a quick committee decision of let's write down all the questions we want to ask. Again, it's a systematic and structured approach. Having decided who to talk to and decided what questions to ask, then we can go out and test out our questions. Now, a lot of organizations, they don't actually plan a pilot as part of the survey. I would like you to always build in a pilot stage in which you test your questionnaire, you make sure you're talking to the right people, see that they understand the questions, check how long the questionnaire is taking, then you can roll out the data collection program. So that piloting and review may be a preliminary stage before the main fieldwork or data collection. At that stage, we will actually go and talk to some of the customers, potential customers, or whoever the targets might be. They might be competitors. So that is the primary data collection. Primary data collection is about collecting information specifically tailored to the information needs of this project, collecting it directly from respondents. Having collected the information, we then will draw together the analysis phase, which may be done by hand, it may be done by computer, it may be a combination. Then we can either present the findings of the research and write a report following that discussion, or in some cases we may write a report, circulate it for discussion, and then present the findings to the colleague or to the client. So if we think about those 10 steps and you are planning a piece of market research, how long do you think that is going to take? Take a moment now to think about a project that your company might commission or might do for itself. How many man-days do you think that is going to take? Look at each of those 10 steps. Write down the number of days you think each step may potentially take.